Hi, this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome, everybody. Well, it's been very busy. I see a lot of you guys still managed to get here. That's cool. And Kyokuk Mani just came up with an interesting one that a cup of noodles now officially changed its name. That was like a huge ME for so long. We all looked and looked. There was no evidence of any name changes. It was always cup noodles. But I don't know where Kilkukmani heard about it. 2 years of saying it was always cup noodles. Now they have admitted the change, even though I certainly couldn't find it over the last 2 years. Someone online had a residue commercial, and when I started looking into that, it showed up and they had changed the name. Hum. Okay, so you found this one then. You get the credit for this one. I made a vid a couple weeks ago about it, but I tore it down. I took something to controversy. All right, so I just did a quickie Google because you just mentioned this like 2 minutes ago. So on Mandela Effect, it was a year ago or more. It's hard to say because they don't tell you the exact date, which is really irritating on Reddit. But once it goes over a year, they just go 1 year, 2 year, like that. So it could be 1 year and 11 months, or it could be 1 year and 5 minutes, and they'll have the same 1 year ago. So, link inside. Let me actually click on that. And then you have all these naysayers going, ha ha, told you so. That totally wasn't there before. We totally looked for this. Oh, see, it's on the wiki now. Really? Cup noodle history. The three original Cup O noodles flavors in the US were beef, chicken, and shrimp. Pork was added in 1976. The product was known as Cup O noodles in the United States until 1993. In 1998, Cup noodles, hot sauce varieties were introduced. Okay, so now officially it was Cup of Noodles until 1993. Huh. I'm just going to check Logopedia and see if it's on there. Cup Noodles Logopedia. See, it's on the Logopedia now. Yeah, we all checked Logopedia. That was like the go-to check, and here it is on Logopedia, 73 to 93 Cup O noodles. So it's that it's not a Mandela effect is a Mandela effect, basically. you know, this style of 1971 to present, is this our country? Because I don't remember this squished together noodles at all. I don't remember this curly C on the cup, the goofy O's all squashed. That's Japan. Okay, that's international. 2001 to present for United States. 2001. I'm really suspicious about that because I haven't eaten them in a while, but I did eat them later than 2001. I don't remember this going back to 2001. Anyway, I can't say for sure, but there's something fishy about that. Anyway, yeah, good find. Whoever found that. Was that actually Dark Wolf who found it, or was it Kyokuk Mani? It sounds like Kyokuk Mani found it, and then Dark Wolf did a video on it. But yeah, no, we looked for that and looked for that was like a huge ME. Everybody was talking about that for the longest time. We checking Logopedia is like the first thing we do. I didn't even say hi to everybody. Dark Wolf Denzen, Space River News, Alejandro Ukami. Actually, not a lot of people. It's mostly just a few of us. David Cook, Moonlit Illusion, Thirsty Boy, Shari D, welcome. Seneca, Ronan the Voice, Colorado Skywatch, Shirkrent, Maz Dos Scorfu. Making me work on that one. Alan Hallman, Lori Sorensen. Okay, a bunch of people coming in later. Oliver Henry, Data Junkie. Let's see. Did I miss anything good besides that one? Yep. Charity remembers Cup of Noodle was, oh man, that was like, you know, one of those ones that was kind of a go-to ME for a lot of people for the longest time, at least a couple years. I was expecting it 1 hour earlier. Oh yeah, because there was the time change. That's right. But you should have had the time change when I had the time change. Sorry, aren't you in the USA? Because I thought the whole USA did the time change at the same time. We had the time change over the weekend. Also, I was so busy today. I got here super late. I just ate dinner at like 11:40, and I put up the video warning thing like really late because I usually try to get up around 2 hours before the show, so it gives YouTube more time to alert you guys. So it seems like if I get it up late, then there's fewer alerts that go out. So, okay, so yeah, a cup of noodles. Big Mandela effect for me. Singer Lucille Bogan, she was a singer in 1930s, called the Little Kim of her day and known for extremely explicit lyrics. In particular, her song "Shave 'Em Dry." I've never heard of that person, so I don't know. I'm not going to look at them then, if cause I will definitely lose monetization in 5 milliseconds if I get a little too crazy. When was sluggard in the scriptures? A sluggard, huh? All right, make sure there's. All right, so where are we? Okay, noodles is done. Yeah, weird. There's another one that did that for me was Walmart about 3 and some years ago when I first learned of the ME. That Walmart used to have a dash was a huge ME, and then about a year ago, Walmart did used to have a dash. It became an un-ME. But we had looked and looked for years, and Walmart that had a dash was a huge ME for the longest time. So now it did have a dash in the past. So that's two of them for me. The MEs that became MEs by not being an ME, something like that. All right. If I think about that too hard, I'll go crazy. Okay, so the first person to notice this one, speaking of coronavirus, this was Above and Beyond Vapor was the first person to notice this one, which just happened about 4 hours ago. Tom Hanks and his wife, Rita Wilson, diagnosed with coronavirus. So people who follow the Mandela will find this particularly interesting because Tom Hanks is like Mr. Mandela effect. He is associated with so many Mandela effects. And then I did the video earlier today on some weird stuff about what they're saying about coronavirus versus actual research, and how they don't match up, at least not in the United States. It's like the CDC is on another planet, another timeline from any research that actually was done. So I did that video, and then right after I uploaded it, and then I went over to Yahoo to check my email, and on the news, they had this one. White House told federal health agency to classify coronavirus deliberations. Looks like there's pretty decent evidence that this did happen. There's been some kind of little bit of denials by the White House, but mostly they're kind of denying like little side parts of it. They're not denying that, they're not saying like no meetings were classified or anything. They're not coming out like that. They're like, it's little political speak avoidance things going on. So I thought this was really interesting that right after I did the video on a bunch of bogus claims about coronavirus, then immediately I fall upon this thing that high-level meetings were classified. Experts weren't allowed in because they didn't have the classification clearance, security clearance to go in. So basically it was a small cabal of high-ranking White House officials with not really many experts or anything, because the experts didn't have the classification to get in. All right, so that was weird. That was on the news for like 5 seconds and then it was off. So I actually just got lucky that I caught that. All right, so then I go to the store after work to get food, and we hear that Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson are diagnosed with coronavirus. I think this is really weird because there's not that many cases of coronavirus out there. That you would think that a famous person would have it already, not to mention it's Mr. Mandela. Also, they had one person who had it in like some kind of GOP meeting, and then there was some kind of political guy that was mocking the wearing of masks by wearing a gas mask. And it turns out he was at that meeting, and then he had to go and, well, I don't know if he had to, but he went into quarantine now after mocking the mask wearing. So there's just a bunch of, you could say it's coincidence, but it's mighty suspicious that it's already shown up with a number of famous people. And I'm not trying to be political about this. I just think that there's too many kind of well-publicized people that have already gotten threatened or actually got it. And now Mr. Mandela's got it. Oops, message on my phone. So, yeah, weird. I actually didn't even manage to leave the store. I probably was one of the first to hear about this because one of the workers at the store told me, and I don't know how he found out so fast because I would imagine he's supposed to be working. Anyway, just weird. There's a lot of weird things about this coronavirus. The way it's going down, the way like everybody just is, everything the CDC says, even though it's contradictory and doesn't always make sense, like everybody around me is just parroting that, like without any thought about the contradictions. And if you point out the contradictions to them, they can't argue with you because, there really are contradictions, but they don't even think about it. They just keep, either they're totally silent, sort of like when you're trying to tell somebody about the ME and they just shut off. They don't, like they're in another planet. They don't even hear you. So the same thing with this coronavirus. I'm trying to say, like, look, research says this, or this doesn't make sense with this. And you just hear just silence, like their brain is gone. Everybody. Then some of them, after I point out some things, they'll just parrot back the CDC statements again. I'm like, yeah, but I was just saying how those don't make sense. Did you not read anything? It's like they're not even reading it hardly. They're just, I don't know. It's just weird. Just weird. Let's see what you guys are up to. Jesus didn't die on the cross. He died on a tree. Yeah, that's a little bit older ME. Yeah, the frogs are being loud. It's been raining quite a bit for a few days. So the frogs, they love it. They go crazy. Interesting ringtone. It's just the stock ringtone on the phone, actually. Sometimes I change it, and then every time it updates, it like resets all the stuff. So I gave up on that. Cherubs are described in the Bible to have hooves, 4 faces, and 2 pairs of wings. Hooves. That is hooves. Yeah, no hooves for the cherubs. Okay, yes, that's an interesting one again. Lori Sorensen has the same ringtone. Yeah, it's the stock ringtone. Stop watching tubes, find real sources. Tubes. I'm not sure what you mean. You mean like YouTube? Coronavirus has same effect ME has when trying to point out contradictions. Yep. It's weird. It's like they don't they're not even mad, or they're just blank. You know, they're not even saying I'm an idiot. Um they're not even dismissing it. They're just like they didn't even hear it. That's the weird thing. All of them, every last one. They're not even acting like I'm crazy. They're just, you know, all right. So, okay. Enough complaining about Corona. So this one, I think didn't Shari find this one? I've got like a medium amount of stuff. Depending on how much I talk, it could go fast or it could go slow. Yeah, this one was Shari. Shari D found this one. That's the thumbnail plant. The plant, that weird image on the thumbnail. Actually, I should probably do a quick search and show you what it looks like. Pycnandra acuminata. Now, if you guys remember, a while back I did the albino trees, and there was a really weird story that I had never heard of, and that was that the albino trees were accumulating heavy metals, and they thought maybe they were like the cleaners of the forest. So the albino trees would lock roots with neighboring trees. The neighboring trees would support them, and then the theory was that these albino trees were helping clean up the forest by like intaking these heavy metals. It was kind of weird because it's like, well, if they're linking roots with the other trees, then how are the other trees not also getting the heavy metals if the circulation system was linked? But anyways, that was, and I looked for this, there was nothing about any other trees doing this heavy metal accumulation at that time. And I looked, and there certainly wasn't anything about trees that bleed like green colored metal. So Shari found this one, and it's called Pycnandra acuminata, and it has a special affinity for nickel. So if there's nickel in the soil, it like sucks it all up so much that it's got like green blood from the nickel content, which is just insane. Or green sap, I should say. So that was what the thumbnail was showing, was the green, it's bleeding green sap. So I looked up Pycnandra. All right, so rainforest shrub, endemic to New Caledonia, adapted to nickel-rich ultramafic soils found there. One of the most prolific hyperaccumulators hyperaccumulators of trace metals known, actively absorbing nickel from the soil and concentrating it within the plant to a concentration of up to 25% nickel citrate as dry weight of the sap, which is blue in color due to nickel content. The vernacular name in French is sève bleue, blue sap. No. That was not there. So there's been some yammer of maybe like using these to clean up toxic sites, using them to actually suck up the nickel, and then you can harvest the nickel out of the plants. Okay, trees' unusual affinity for nickel first came up to light in the 1970s. And research into other hyperaccumulator plants has increased since then. Yeah, this hyperaccumulator thing was not even there when I covered the albino trees. So then I'm like, okay, well, let's look at this list of hyperaccumulators, since now there's a big pile of them. And one of the ones I saw, I had it highlighted, but I might have lost the highlight. Here, rapeseed is on there. If you know what rapeseed is, that's actually the plant that they make canola oil out of. So when they were marketing canola, they realized that this word rapeseed plant sounds bad, so they renamed it to be canola oil instead of rapeseed oil. But basically, canola slash rapeseed is a plant that's fairly poisonous to eat, but they had learned how to process all the poison out of it. And so now they make oil out of it, but it's not like a natural food source. And canola oil is in like everything now. You're hard pressed not to find canola oil in everything. Just about anything you eat that has any oil in it. If you eat like a candy that doesn't have oil or juice or something, it probably doesn't have canola. But I'm just shocked at how many, I mean, like 75, 95% of food sources in the grocery store, other than like vegetables, have canola oil in them. Okay, so I was wondering if that, if it's a hyperaccumulator, is it going to mean that we're going to have heavy metals in the canola in this timeline? I don't know. There's not a lot of other stuff that water hyacinth, I've heard of those. Duckweed. So these are, I guess, I can't actually, didn't totally figure out what this, so the contaminant is in its short form initials, which I don't have them all memorized, so I don't know. I mean, Al might be aluminum, but I wouldn't swear to it. Then I don't know what this hyperaccumulator precipitator is over here. I don't know what all that junk is. So I really do need to research it a little bit more. But tall fescue, naphthalene. A lot of these I have not heard of, but water hyacinth and duckweed I've heard of. Bent grass I've heard of. And of course the canola. Red clover. Interesting. Anyway, so there's a bunch of these hyperaccumulators now. I bet there'll be even more. So they're basically, they have barley's in there. Interesting. So they have, basically plants that like toxic heavy metals and a bunch of them. So yeah, weird. All right. Super weird. As you can see, I didn't fix my other computer, so I'm just checking comments on here. Thirsty. Trees that grow under other trees connect roots and tell the other trees, hey, I'm under here. And the other trees move the leaves. Okay, we've covered the trees connect roots and blah, blah. I have not heard that the other trees move the leaves. That might be a newer part of it. Weird. Angels with hooves, it's a joke, right? Yeah. Not in this timeline. Someone on Reddit remembers Coca-Cola having vanilla and cherry mixed selling in bottles. Ooh, I don't remember that. I do remember vanilla though. Just vanilla. I don't remember it with cherry also though. Cherry Coke is ancient, yeah. Well, to me anyway. So I think that the thing was that the Mandela is someone remembers vanilla and cherry Coke together. I think that's it. History of vanilla Coke. All right, let's look at the wiki. Introduced in 2002, but subsequently discontinued in North America and the United States. Okay, so vanilla Coke was there. History of cherry Coke, and cherry Coke has to be in there. I want to flip my gizzard if cherry Coke is not old. 1982 World's Fair, yeah, is old. Okay. So I think that the Emmy in question was someone remembers both of them. They are now using the trees for mining. Yeah, well, they were saying that the hyperaccumulator trees can be used to clean up mine sites. So the storyline behind mining is basically you have like heavy metals locked in veins, and they're digging into these veins. But as they dig through, they kind of liberate a lot more heavy metals, expose it to the water, like the rain and the air, and breaking up all the stones. And so this toxins that were sort of locked in are kind of released and tend to spread across the land. So that's what they mean by a lot of times that's what they mean by mining contamination. So they could, I guess, plant these. If, say, the mine was a nickel mine or had nickel contamination, because sometimes the contamination is not really even the metal they were looking for, because certain metals tend to be found with other metals. So sometimes they dug out all the metal they want, but then the tailings, the leftover pieces, have a bunch of other metals that are toxic in them. So they're saying, say it was contaminated with nickel, they could plant these trees there and then hope the trees would suck up a bunch of the nickel. It's kind of tricky though, because first of all, the tree would have to grow in that environment. So the weather would have to be good, the rainfall would have to be good, and that may not happen that often. Also, you'd have to have the tree match up with the metal. Now, I mean, if we have a bunch more shifts and we get more and more of these trees, that we have more variety, yeah, it could be doable. Interesting. I don't think we're there yet, but it could come. Orange and vanilla came before cherry and vanilla. I don't have any recollection of orange and vanilla. I was not a super Coke-aholic though, so that's one I can't say for 100% for me. What gets me is none of the street preachers see these scripture changes, which change the gospel message. Yeah, I don't know. I think people just don't want to think it's real, and so they just would rather believe it's bad memory. They don't want to look bad. I don't know. It just people are weird. I think it's worse here, though. I really do. It's just the way people blank out. They're just even more. But it's not the Mandela people. When I went to the conference, none of the people at the conference were like that. None of the regular Mandela people. So it's just kind of like the people. I don't know. It just people are different here on average. It's not the Mandela people, but they're just sort of even less critical thinking. They're not, just like they don't even read what you said, and they're already responding with something that doesn't really even make that much sense. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to look that up about the trees. Trees join roots. Yes, we've covered that one in the past. This thing about not putting the leaves, I'm not sure what I would. Upward water, okay, blah, blah. Do trees talk to each other? Hair-like root tips of trees joined together with microscopic fungal filaments. That's interesting. They didn't really. Last time I was researching it, they didn't describe how the circulatory systems were attached. They just said that they were attached and they shared water. So, do trees talk to each other? We've kind of covered some of this, but it looks like it's continued to shift. Wise old mother trees feed their saplings with liquid sugar and warn the neighbors when danger approaches. Reckless youngsters take foolhardy risks with leaf shedding, light chasing, and excessive drinking, and usually pay with their lives. Huh. There's now a substantial body of scientific evidence that refutes the idea that trees are disconnected loners. It shows instead that trees of the same species are communal and will often form alliances with trees of other species. Forest trees have evolved to live in cooperative, interdependent relationships maintained by communication and a collective intelligence similar to an insect colony. Some are calling it the Wood Wide Web. So they're connected through underground fungal networks. So that doesn't explain how they share water. How do fungal networks spread water, though? Use them to communicate. How do you use a fungal network to communicate? It's not even a part of you? They send distress signals about drought and disease, for example, and other trees alter their behavior when they receive these messages. Scientists call these mycorrhizal networks. Okay, mycorrhizae is like a fungus that's communal with like oak trees usually. At least that's the only case I knew of it. I've never heard of mycorrhizae being used for communication between trees. How will you even do that? The fine hair-like root tips of trees join together with microscopic fungal filaments to form the basic links of the network, which appears to operate as a symbiotic relationship between trees and fungi. The fungi consume about 30% of the sugar that the trees photosynthesize from sunlight. The sugar is what fuels the fungi as they scavenge the soil for nitrogen, phosphorus, and other mineral nutrients, which are then absorbed and consumed by the trees. You know, they used to always say that the mycorrhizae somehow like kept the soil moist and provided water. They never really explained how the mycorrhizae would do that. So now that I'm looking back on it, I'm like, how is any of this stuff happening? Lacking the sunlight to photosynthesize, they survive because big trees, including their parents, pump sugar into the roots through the network. That's for young saplings. All right, so now we've got the adult trees feeding the baby trees. Pump sugar into their roots. So it's not just water now. Because last I checked this, they just shared water. So now they're sharing sugar. This is also a new upgrade to the storyline. All right, now they're talking about a stump of a tree that was felled 400 or 500 years ago. Wolleben found the stump was green with chlorophyll. There was only one explanation. The surrounding beaches were keeping it alive by pumping sugar to it through the network. When beaches do this, they remind me of elephants. They are reluctant to abandon their dead, especially when it's a big, old, revered matriarch. That's weird, though. If you cut it down, it's still alive, but it's being fed by the other trees. Why doesn't it just grow more leaves then? I don't get, like other trees, if you cut into them and the roots are still alive, they just grow more leaves. So it's dead, but it's not dead. Was it like the undead zombie tree? Okay, to communicate through the network, trees send chemical, hormonal, and slow pulsing electrical signals, which scientists are just beginning to decipher. So somebody has been studying electrical pulses and identified a voltage-based signaling system that appears strikingly similar to animal nervous systems. Alarm and distress appear to be the main topics of tree conversation. Trees also communicate through air using pheromones and other sense signals. Wollaben's favorite example occurs on the hot, dusty savannas of sub-Saharan Africa, where the wide-crowned umbrella thorn acacia is the emblematic tree. When a giraffe starts chewing acacia leaves, the tree notices an injury and emits a distress signal in the form of ethylene gas, Upon detecting this gas, neighboring acacias start pumping tannins into their leaves in large enough quantities. These compounds can sicken or even kill large herbivores. Dang, this story has totally upgraded since last I checked it out. I did hear some mumbling about maybe trees communicate by releasing certain scents into the air. But now we've got this whole story where we've got electromagnetic pulses and they've got specific gases and they're pumping tannins. Man, these trees are going to kick your butt. Giraffes are aware of this, however, have evolved with acacias, and this is why they browse into the wind so the warning gas doesn't reach the trees ahead of them. If there's no wind, a giraffe will typically walk 100 yards further than ethylene gas can travel in still air before feeding on the next acacia. Giraffes, you might say, know that the trees are talking to one another. Trees can detect scents through their leaves, which qualifies as a sense of smell. They also have a sense of taste. When elms and pines come under attack by pine leafing caterpillars, for example, they detect the caterpillar's saliva and release pheromones that attract parasitic wasps. The wasps lay their eggs inside the caterpillars, and the wasp larvae eat the caterpillars from the inside out. Okay, another favorite ME is this whole laying the larva inside some other animal, and the animal will be getting eaten from the inside out. That's another huge one. Very clever of the trees. Okay, so these trees are like smarter than people, apparently. When a deer is eating a branch, the tree brings defending chemicals to bring the leaves taste bad. When a human breaks a branch with his hands, the tree knows the difference and brings in substances to heal the wound. Oh my goodness. All right. Trees are geniuses in this timeline. I mean, this whole article is like, what? Huh. Still reading it. They're talking about how he used to think that you had to prune trees and spray pesticides to thin them, but then he found that privately managed forests, they don't do that, and somehow the trees all work it out. The trees were so much bigger and more plentiful, very few trees needed to be felled, blah blah blah, by not touching them. I think that's the difference between old timeline and new timeline. I think old timeline, you did have to manage trees because they were stupid and they just grew however they grew. But apparently in this timeline, no. All right, I don't know. I'm tripping out. This thing goes on and on. Cedar and maple are on one network, hemlock and Douglas fir on another. See, last time I checked this, it was just like trees that combined up. So it'd have to be the same tree. Now they've got this whole, I don't know, clans that link up with other clans. Oh my gosh, this is like insanity. Huh. All right, anyway, I'm going to have to look into that more later. It looks like it kind of goes on and on. What were all those tree experts smoking and drinking? Yeah, that's the way it's been going for the last couple of years. I'm really not surprised. I am kind of surprised at how much change I'm reading compared to last time I checked into this because it wasn't that long ago, but And my history trees didn't connect to each other. Yeah, and they're connecting across species. I bet you didn't have albino trees and living stumps. That, you know, I heard about the living stump thing last time, but now they're saying it's a 400 to 500-year-old stump that's still alive, but yet it doesn't grow any leaves. Dolphins are illegal to communicate with, up to 30 years in prison. Huh. Really? I've never heard that. I'm going to check that out because that's just really strange. Who would even make up such a rule? Okay, illegal to talk with dolphins. Illegal to talk with dolphins. The Marine Mammal Protection Act is the predominant federal law that governs swim with dolphins encounters. I'm not exactly finding it. I mean, they still do dolphin encounters to my knowledge. See, they're still allowing swim with dolphin encounters. Recently, there have been attempts to regulate the practice in one particular jurisdiction, Hawaii. All right, I'm not really finding the illegal to communicate thing, although it kind of sounds like they're working on it. I don't believe plant pheromone emission is technically communication, even if humans emit pheromones, but not under conscious control. Well, unconscious communication, there's a consciousness somewhere. This conscious mind is not familiar with what is going on, maybe, but it's still communication of some type. If they're like able to call in insects that feed on the pests and stuff, that is pretty sophisticated. Communication, talk. Well, I mean, if you want to get technical, they're not opening their mouth and making normal sounds, but talk can be used as a real vague word. All right, so yes, weird. Let's talk about some weird animals. Oop. This is an old ME, but it looks different now. I think this one's been about 3 years ago. The babirusa pig. Okay, so here's what's different for me. It used to have like 4 tusks that would curl around weird up along their face, but now 2 of them just poke right through the top of the head. That's what's changed for me. So see these 2 here? Those used to, for me, curl up around the lips, sort of like how these did. But now they just jam right out at the top of the snout. So that's a change for me. They didn't do it like this before. They would peel around the side of the face here, not just jam up through the snout. And look, they all have that now. Every one of them has it. It's coming out of the top of their head. That's crazy. It definitely did not come out the top of the head when I first saw these things. So, weird. They're all like that. I can't find any of the... So there's the skull. So, yeah. Stage 1 was just a bunch of teeth by the... just peeled around the outside. But now it comes right... Like, see, look, it's right through the bone and everything there. So that's a change for me, that the tusks come out of the top of the snout now. There's a really weird snake. This snake is kind of cute though, but you know I have to have at least one creepy crawly. Madagascar, leaf nose snake. It looks like another Dr. Seuss thing. It's a snake, but look at the snout. Leaf nose snake. So there's one, the Malagasy leaf nose snake. Apparently there's a bunch of them because that has a different leaf face there than the pointy nosed one. You know what? I didn't even see that last time when I was looking at these other leaf nosed ones. I didn't see the one with the frilly leaf. Oh my gosh. I don't know. That looks ridiculously crazy. He's still got his nostrils in there somehow. All right, so never saw those before. These are also cool. Tiger wing butterfly. You're going to think the wing is neat, but it's actually the chrysalis is chrome colored. I think it actually, they said it actually did. Look at those. Look at that. It is totally, look at those. I mean, I would never want them to hatch. I just want to keep the chrysalis. That's craziness. Shiny tiger wing butterfly chrysalises. I wonder if I can get my paws on some of those. Out of this world, literally. Look at that. Meet the caterpillars that build chrome homes. I wonder if there's actually going to be metal in there. Or just, I mean, how does they get it so shiny? So their story is that this mirror effect causes them to hide better from predators. I mean, to me, it makes them stick out like a sore thumb. So I'm not really sure I totally buy that story. They are actually very hard to see in nature, given the way all the colors are reflected. Contrary to some comments online, these structures don't contain metal particles. They're made of chitin, the same substance that gives insects, jewel beetles their shine and turns the sea mouse into a rainbow-colored fiber optic lamp. I haven't seen those sea mice in a while. Let me take a... Oh, they're a lot prettier now. It's been a while since I've looked at the sea mice. They had some color on them, but they weren't that bright last time, the sea mice. So there's this funky worm. They're not really mice, and they're under the ocean. They have this hair. Huh. Check that out. They weren't... So they're fiber optic now, apparently. The spines of the sea mouse manage to reroute 100% of the light that hits them, making them some of the best light benders ever observed. Amazingly, the spine's ability to bend light surpasses even the most brilliant, non-living photonic crystal we know of, the fire opal. The sea mouse's body pulls off this feat so well, in fact, that we've used it as a blueprint for some man-made optical communication fibers, which now use a similar system of hexagonal cylinders to transfer light. All right, so this is a new story with the sea mice. They had pretty colored hairs, but they weren't fiber optic, light bending, super studly things like they are now. Look at that! Look at that! That is way more shiny than they were before. Yeah, that one has progressed a ways. All right. got you. Let's see. I think all those are mine. Yep. Amphiuma. I kind of was just checking out some of the weird animals, and I found a bunch more. Amphiuma. I think I might have had this one on, but I don't think that there was such a giant stretch in between the feet before. So these I think, what are they, like some kind of lizard thing? They have like these. I'm going to just put like an illustration so you can kind of get an idea of it. These super tiny little feet that look like ridiculous. Well, then this giant, ridiculous body, and then two other tiny little feet. And they're called amphiuma. And they have 3 different species. They have the one-toe variety. So the feet have one toe. So, I mean, that's like a stick, isn't it? One toe. And then there's the 2-toe variety. And then there's the 3-toe variety. So, again, it's like Dr. Seuss. That they have 3 species, and they're like the same except for the number of toes. Oh my gosh, you just can't make this stuff up. You just can't. I think that might be the 1-toe variety there. So when the 1-toe variety, it just looks like it's got nubs, basically. And the other thing they said about amphiuma is they have the largest amount of DNA in the living world, 25 times more DNA than humans. And they're native to the southeast USA. So any of you in the southeast USA, have you ever seen these amphiumas? They're pretty weird. All right, see, look at those tiny little feet. Seriously, you know. And you know, we should have studied those in biology classes. Example of vestigial feet or something. So they're pretty big too. They're not tiny. There's some dude with his foot, so you can kind of get an idea. So that was a 3-toed amphiuma. Look at the tiny little feet. My God, these things are ridiculous. More Dr. Seuss. Okay, so amphiuma. Okay, Shari D found this one, and actually kind of led to me finding all these other border. It's just because these sheep have like rabbit ears. So that was new for her. I can't swear this is a Mandela, but those sheep are pretty weird looking with those rabbit ears. All right, so yeah, there's a lot of really weird sheep now. Really weird sheep. So look at that sheep. It looks like a rabbit when it's sitting down. It's like a giant rabbit. All right, and then this last one. I've been talking before about how a lot of the cat species are getting little tufts on the ears, and the tufts are growing longer and longer and longer. So it started out as a little one. So like you could look at what was it? No, the name escapes me now. Not bobcat. Now I can't remember what cat that was. Canadian lynx. That's it. Canadian lynx. They have huge tufts on the ears now. Okay, so now there's a donkey that has giant rabbit ears and the tufts. It's called a pega. Pega donkey, breed from Brazil. Used to create gaited mules, like gait like walk. Brazilian gaited horse breeds. I don't know. Weird. Okay, so they have these giant rabbit ears, but then on top of the ears, it has tufts. So crazy. Look at that. It's like I got cat ear, rabbit ear. It's a cat ear, rabbit ear, donkey. Look at those tufts. Look at that. Does that not look like ridiculous? Look at that head. Again, it's Dr. Seuss. I think that's just a fake one there. It better be. But look, just whatever. Weird. So Dr. Seuss has been meddling in the animal kingdom again. Caught that one. Let's see what you guys are up to over here. Kangaroo are related to deer. Oh, hoo, 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 hoo. Man, the animal kingdom has been busy. Kangaroo related to deer, and they're not exclusive to Australia anymore. Okay, well, maybe that was a temporary timeline because now we have this thing debunking that kangaroos are related to deer. They're no more closely related to deer than they are to elephants, cats, and human beings. They split off from placental animals about 100 million years ago. Do North American deer and kangaroos have a common ancestor? Mm. 160 million years ago for the divergence. So you and a deer are closer relatives than a deer and a kangaroo. Although I do have to wonder why there's all these debunkings of this rumor. Where did the rumor even get started from? Maybe another timeline. Okay. This one, I'm pretty sure this Shari came up with this one too. I'm 99% sure this is hers. All right, so telharmonium is the first electric musical instrument. And you can just about guess that it is from way in the back, ancient times. 1897 was the first electrical instrument. So this thing is a trip. I mean, you look at the images and you're like, no. All right, so this image just shows the control panel here. See if I can make it any bigger. So this thing is like the control panel, but the whole rest of it is, I guess, behind that wall or something. It's not shown, but they're huge. So the first one ever invented was 7 tons in 1897. I don't know where people are getting all this money from. Okay, so there's some of it. Look at the electrics. Oops. Too small. Okay, so you can see it there pretty good. 7 tons of machinery to make these things operate. And then the second version was 200 tons. 200 tons. There's hardly any images of it. I think it's kind of new. I think that we'll get more of these images coming down the chutes. All right, so I'm going to go to the wiki or something here. Let's see what we got. Also known as a dynamophone. Dynamophone. Early electrical organ developed by Thaddeus Cahill, 1896, patent to 1897. The electrical signal from the telharmonium was transmitted over wires. It was heard on the receiving end by means of horn speakers. Let me just go to the rest of the wiki here. Horn speakers. The telharmonium used tone wheels to generate musical sounds as electrical signals by additive synthesis. It is considered to be the first electromechanical musical instrument. The telharmonium tones referred to the electron sine wave tones as it was capable of producing. However, it was not restricted to such simple sounds. Each tone wheel of the instrument corresponded to a single note, and to broaden its possibilities, Cahill added several extra tone wheels to add harmonics to each tone. This, combined with organ-like stops and multiple keyboards, as well as a number of foot pedals, meant that every sound could be sculpted and reshaped. The instrument was noted for its ability to produce the sounds of common orchestral woodwind instruments such as the flute, bassoon, clarinet, and also the cello. The telharmonium needed 67 kilowatts of power and had 150 keys that allowed it to work properly. Yeah, I'm real suspicious about that one. I don't think so. We're just seeing so many weird tech before its time. Eva, 1 hour mark. Thank you. I'm actually clicking along pretty decently. Have you seen the chimera called Chimera with 2 sets of DNA? Yeah, we've had the chimera cats on here a couple of times. Yeah, they're weird. First there was just like chimeras, and now we've got all this DNA blending and everything. That's a huge Cadbury bunny. Yeah, I'm waiting for the animals that are chocolate inside. You guys know about the Schumann resonance code. Is that the latest conspiracy theory? This timeline loves its conspiracy theories. Schumann resonance code. What is the normal Schumann resonance? What's the Schumann resonance code? Schumann resonance code. I'm not finding it. Of course, it's the Schumann resonances now. I've brought that up in the past. The Schumann resonances code. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly what you mean. You might want to clarify a tad. I discovered a code embedded in the Schumann resonance, made some videos. Check out my channel. Yeah, okay, check it out. Fish can walk on land. Yeah, we've covered that one. They can walk on land and they can breathe using fermentation and what was the other one? Fermentation and anaerobic respiration. One kind of fish can breathe using fermentation, anaerobic respiration, or just breathe air like normal humans. So one fish can breathe 3, was it the cruciate carp, I believe that was called. 3 different ways to breathe, including air on land. And then there was a image of it like standing there on its fins on land, like some kind of finny mammal. They can stand on their fins instead of flopping on the ground like a normal fish. Okay, so got that one. All right, this one was brought up on Redcon. I can't take credit for this one. This one trips me out. About half the people on Redcon remembered it, current timeline, and about half of them remembered it like me, like, you know, WTF, basically. Does anyone remember a city where people's homes were connected with opera house to listen to the music live? Nope, never heard of it. Actually, gold veins, like all other mineral veins, come from the creation of the planet in the beginning. Dark Wolf, that might have been true in the old timeline, but there is a lot of weird stuff in this timeline. I've seen. I'm assuming it hasn't shifted again, but like a few years ago, I saw this thing where they thought gold was actually some kind of biological remnant of bacteria, where they accumulated the gold particles and then excreted them into veins. What was another one? Also, there's definitely been a lot of theory that gold was like precipitated out of liquid dripping through the vein areas over time. So that would have not been created when the other rock, host rock, was created. And that's why it was veins, because it would go through like existing channels and the water would flow through there. So, oh, okay. You're talking about gold particles. Okay. I'll give you that one. That has been the storyline for some time. Yes. Okay. I will definitely give you that one. All right. So, I think I should probably just go to Redcon for this one. There's like it's a week old thread. I should have dug this one up earlier. see if I can find it. Here we go. Discovered by House Bishop, username House Bishop, found this. Okay, so there's all this talk about COVID-19, Corona, blah blah blah. So I talked before and I said, oh well, nothing happened with swine flu and nothing happened with MRSA and SARS and all this. Nothing happened. Well, in this timeline, apparently something did happen with the 2009 swine flu pandemic. Now, I have to say influenza pandemic is a word I've only just been hearing in recent months. But apparently now this is an old term, at least back to 2009 when there was a swine flu pandemic that lasted from early 2009 to late 2010. The second of two pandemics involving H1N1, the first being the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. We also had pegged this one as an ME early on, that there was a like this huge pandemic of flu, because nobody remembered flu wiping out a whole bunch of people. We just remembered plague. At least that's the way it was last time I talked about it. All right, so apparently not only was there's this Spanish flu pandemic, but then another H1N1 was this swine flu. Now, this is really kind of freaks me out because I remember the hype, oh, the swine flu is going to get us. And then there was like nothing. There's like nothing in my memory. I don't even remember wondering what happened to the swine flu. I don't even remember anything happening, but I don't remember anything. And that's what's weird. I remember nothing. I remember the lead up and the paranoia and the fear that it might get like everywhere, and then there's like it's a complete and utter blank, which kind of freaks me out. So apparently in this timeline, the swine flu kind of like spread everywhere, and here's the trippy part: it spread from Mexico over the border to California. Well, guess I live right near the Mexican-California border, so I should know about this because the swine flu would have been attacking right here first. It's estimated that 11 to 21% of the global population contracted the illness, more in absolute terms than the Spanish flu pandemic. However, 150,500, with about 150,000 to 575,000 fatalities, 0.01 to 0.08% death rate. So not real high death rate, but not real low. Unlike most strains of influenza, H1N1 does not disproportionately infect adults older than 60 years. This was an unusual characteristic of H1N1. This is also an ME for me. All these flus that target just certain age ranges. I did not have that in the old timeline. This is very recent, the last few years for me, that the flus target certain age range. Now, they used to say young kids were more at danger just because they were weaker. And they could die quickly because they just don't have the defenses, and maybe their immune system is not developed. Okay, so that wasn't really that weird a thought. And then old people and sick people were more at risk because they were just weak and old and frail. The same reason the babies were. But now we have these viruses that like specifically just like infect older people but not younger people, or younger people but not older people. I didn't have that before. All right, so that's another one. Initially called an outbreak, H1N1. So if you go back here, where did that go? I thought I was going to get back to the thread. Okay, there's swine flu thread here. So you start talking to... I screwed that up. Where did it go? Where did it go again? I need to click on comments. Comments is the magic button. Otherwise, I just go to the link. There's people on here saying, oh, I had it. I almost died. There's people saying that their whole school got quarantined because of swine flu. This is in the United States. there's like half the people who remember this big pandemic thing, and then half the people are like, I don't remember much happening. I remember the swine flu being a lot of scare for almost nothing. In France, I recall they overbought the vaccines, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, see, that's what I remember. A lot of scare and then nothing really happened. But then I have a weird memory block. And so I was going around for days saying, oh, and nothing happened. But when I really thought about it, it's like I can't remember anything past a certain point, like the lead up. But I should have been wondering what happened to it. And like, I should have checked and went, oh, and then but I didn't. Like, I don't have that memory either, which doesn't quite make sense. I had no idea so many had been infected worldwide. So I don't know. This whole storyline is weird for me. That it was like this huge pandemic. Began to taper off in 2009. Margaret Chan announced the end of H1N1 pandemic in 2010. All right, so there's another weird thing about the swine flu too. Also, like, people were remembering a whole bunch of different testing being done, like a lot of people being tested for swine flu. I don't remember having a bunch of testing, quarantines, people almost dying in the United States. I don't remember any of that. 50 million Americans got it. So this is user House Bishop that found this weird story. Okay, so then in the comments, I found this one from user drugmaker07. Let's see. There's a username for you. Okay. Knew of this that I've never heard of. So this person seemed to come from the timeline that's more like the current timeline, where he remembers people getting super sick and almost dying from swine flu in the United States. Okay, so he linked me up to this thing, which is also super weird. This is all so weird for me. So I'm like tripping. Okay. People who recover from swine flu may be left with extraordinary natural ability to fight off flu viruses. And that's what he was saying, is that he knew these people who almost died from swine flu, but since then they've never had a single illness. All right, so this story is weird because they're saying that this swine flu somehow imparted stronger immunity than even like flu vaccines or anything else ever tested, these people. And it's not just immunity from flus that are similar to the swine flu, but all kinds of other viruses, which makes like no sense at all. It demonstrates how to make a single vaccine that could potentially provide immunity to all influenza, because these people apparently seem to be immune to all influenza, not just that one strain. The 9 patients they studied who had caught swine flu during the pandemic found the infection had triggered the production of a wide range of antibodies that are only very rarely seen after seasonal flu infections or flu vaccination. 5 antibodies isolated by the team could fight all the seasonal H1N1 flu strains from the last decade, the devastating Spanish flu strain from 1918, plus potentially deadly bird flu H5N1. All right, so this sentence here is weird too. The researchers believe the extraordinarily powerful antibodies were created as the body learned how to fight the new infection with swine flu using its old memory of how to fight off other viruses. I don't even get that, because when I studied like how antibodies were made, basically the germ in question was sort of inspected and in like its basic exterior antigens and stuff were were mapped, and then that map was used to create the antibodies. So they wouldn't be like ranging through old memory of old viruses. They would, there's the germ, and we saw it, and this is what it looks like, and they would make, it would make the antibodies according to that germ. So this whole sentence here, I mean, like, obviously the whole way that antibodies are developed now must be completely different, because this makes zero sense according to what I learned about how the immune system creates antibodies. I mean, in my old timeline, it used the actual germ to create it, which totally makes sense. Why would you range through memories of old viruses? You have the germ sitting right there. Just use that one. Anyway, so they're trying to use this to create like a universal flu vaccine, like the holy grail of flu prevention that we've all heard about since childhood. I don't know. This whole thing is a trip. Let's see what you guys are up to. I remember brief quarantine for those who contracted swine flu, but it was very small number. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember like anything in the United States. I just remember there was a lead up that we were afraid it would come here, but on this timeline it came through Mexico and kind of took over. All schools were closed and used for mass vaccination, not forced, but those who did not take it were idiots. Many died after taking vaccines. They said they took vaccine too late. Huh, see, I haven't this timeline, I never heard of it. I mean, I don't even remember it being that big a deal anywhere else but a little bit in China. Um, all logic has flown out the windows. Yeah, I do agree with you there. Even the people of this timeline, like, you try to use logic, but this doesn't make logical sense, and they're just staring at you like you're speaking another language. It's like an episode of Twilight Zone. The small community lost their power and slowly started to break down society. I don't know though, but um, what we see is more tech and different, and the reverse of the breakdown of society. The society's gotten weird and illogical, but functionality is still there. I don't know. I mean, economy clacks along. Uh, I mean, everything just keeps clacking along somehow. Apparently, you don't need brain cells to operate society. Ebola the day the news stopped talking about it. Now, see, Ebola is one I do remember kind of start to finish, that there would be more cases. Oh my gosh, it spread to this other town. What if it spreads to here and then gets to. But then I heard, oh, there's less cases, and then it was kind of under control. And then, I remember the whole up and down for Ebola. It didn't just like, my mind doesn't just go blank in the middle for it. So Ebola was another, like, I would call it one of many, many, many fear porn scares. I think Corona also is one, but Ebola, I do remember the whole story at least. In USA, under swine flu, all medical personnel had to take or lose jobs, had to take vaccine. I'm assuming you mean there was two types of vaccine, one for government medical and VIP, another for the rest. Um, yeah, I just don't remember all that. Weird. I mean, like, I don't know what USA I was in, but I don't remember any of that. I don't know what San Diego that happened in, but it wasn't mine. Corona is just an excuse for changing the world as we know one more time. Shari D. Yeah, I don't know. An excuse, or is it Mandela Effect using it? I'm trying to think. We have so many conspiracy theories and fear porn here. So this is like another one. Maybe it'll have, I don't know. Will it all be bad? Will it all be good? It's weird because the stock market's collapsing. Like so many things should be wrong with our economy, but I'm actually selling a ton of product lately. Just like the last few weeks, I was like really slow in January and February. Now it's like crazy. I'm thinking like now should be when I don't sell anything. I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense. I'm not complaining though. So I got to pay taxes soon. So it's nice when I make a bunch of money so I can pay my taxes. Okay, so weird. I only have two more, so maybe only an hour and a half of yakking today. I remember the thinker. 3.4% mortality according to the WHO is higher than 1918 Spanish flu at 2.8. Yeah, but you know what? It was 2% like last week, and now it's 3 something. And next week they could say it's 1. Oh no, we're wrong. They have, they don't know how many people got it and didn't get very sick because those people probably wouldn't go to the hospital. They just stay at home. And we have no idea how many people that happens to. So how can we know the mortality rate without knowing that, without hardly testing anything? I heard New York has got so mad that there's no test kits, even though they have a lot of cases in New York, that they're going to contract with private facilities to get test kits because they don't want to go through the CDC anymore. Can't blame them. I mean, it's ridiculous. Nobody can get a test in the U.S. unless you're like Tom Hanks. I think he got his in Australia, so that doesn't count. I mean, you pretty much, if you didn't just come from China and just have the exact symptoms and are almost dying, they don't test you. I could come up with the exact symptoms and they won't test me because we don't have any test kits hardly at all. It's craziness. Better not call hospital, then you'll be interned. You know what? It's all like voluntary. So there's all these stories of people who are supposed to be voluntary quarantine that broke it and went stomping around. Some dad went to his father-daughter dance, even though he's supposed to be quarantined and all this stuff. They're pushing for cashless society all over the world. You know what? I really just would not devolve into fear porn too much. I just be real careful. The whole this is the end thing has been going on for like 10 years. So, the New World Order takeover and stuff just keeps not happening. So I wouldn't get too worried about it. All right, so this one is a personal one. I don't know if you'll share this one. I used to watch this show all the time. All right, and there was an Emmy on there before. This is a different Emmy, but it's the Buck Rogers, that stupid, corny TV show. Buck Rogers in the what century? What century was it? What century was Buck Rogers in? And I'm going to cry if nobody remembers the same century as I remember for Buck Rogers. Now, there was an Emmy for Buck Rogers for a while. For a while, I was in a timeline where the Emmy was that Rogers was spelled Rodgers. And I found that on Mandela Effects channel. And that was the Mandela Effect he was touting at the time. And I agreed with you because I remembered it as Rogers. But in this timeline, it is now again Rogers. Okay. So flip-flop on the Rogers spelling. We're back to the Gers as of last night when I checked it. Okay. QP remembers 24th century. Shari remembers 25th century. All right, now this is the stupid TV show specifically. And I swear it's stupider in this timeline than it was in my old time. And very bunch of sexually explicit innuendo in that show now that I don't remember being there. All right, QB 24, 25, 21st. You know, it's weird. I do kind of have a weird memory of the 21st century. Buck Rogers. Now that you're saying that, okay. I might have dual memory on this one, but my dual memory does not match current reality. So, the other weird thing about this is I remember Buck Rogers and, but it's in the. Now, I remember the 24th century. Type that in. And I can't find any Buck Rogers in the 24th. And it was and the 24th century. Buck Rogers and the 24th century. I can't find any Buck Rogers in the 24th century and the 24th century. It's 25th century. And I know it was not 25th century. And this is the show, the stupid show right here with... And there's been other MEs on, like, the outfits changing. I just want to show you the beginning bit so you can remember the... All right, I don't want to do that one because I might get copyright. But yes, it's this show. This goofy show. I don't remember. See, the helmets are different. Things are different. But anyways, it was always Buck Rogers in the 25th century. And I remember Buck Rogers and the 24th century. But I do have this weird remembrance of the 21st century. It is not as strong as the 24th. I'm not sure if that comes from another show or not. It's not strong enough for me to really be confident, but I do have this weird kind of memory of the 21st. And if I can't find anything else that explains the 21st, but I have never heard of the 25th before. That is one thing I am sure of. I've never heard of the 25th. Did he not have a black-gray jacket? Yeah. Now, I think, I don't remember that vest. I mean, I'm not going to remember the outfits of every single episode, but I do remember kind of a more normally jacket. Now, I do remember that there was the fancy dress outfit. I don't remember that goofy collar. I don't remember that rainbow thing. I don't remember these pinstripings on the pants. A lot of little details. Look at that. I totally do not remember that rainbow band on his arm. I do remember kind of like a bomber jacket, which I'm not seeing at all anywhere, that he would wear most days. No, it wasn't that one. That's like a shirt. Yeah, I'm not seeing that bomber jacket. That was kind of his go-to outfit. Apparently not in this timeline, though. The Ford Motor Company are not coming to their Palm Springs house because of this pandemic, the first time ever since my mom started working for the Fords. Huh. Well, now you're working for the Fiords. It's not the Fords. Do you remember the TV show The Connors or The Connors? I remember the Conners. Not sure what it is now. The Conners. Okay, so that's what it is now. Hey, is there an Emmy I don't see? It's a miracle. Zombie snake. I think I covered that. There's like some kind of pest that makes snakes into zombies. Mentioned that a couple weeks ago. Okay, so there's that one, and I have one more. So that's interesting. So we've got an equal mix of 21st, 24th, and 25th. Only Dara, I think, remembers the 25th. Huh. Or Shari, Dara. Dara is one of my customers, actually. Double slit experiment. Yeah, double slit experiment. That's been talked about a lot. It's interesting if anybody hasn't by now already heard of it. 2010, someone at the gas station I stopped at for breakfast said I was just in there 10 minutes prior. They said you were in a medical scrubs, but I never worked in the medical field. Strange. Yeah, there's a lot of little weird stories like that around nowadays. The double slit experiment is an experiment where they shot light through a series of slits, and the light acted like the light showed where the light passed through and impacted a sensor in the back. It showed like an interference pattern as if they were waves. They're trying to tell if light was wave or a particle. So it looked like waves, but then they wanted to see what the light was doing as it went through the slits. So they put a sensor on the slits right there so they could look at the particles as it was coming through. But when they put that sensor, then suddenly the pattern, then the back changed into particles. So it was like just by looking at it, they were able to change the light from a wave-like behavior to a particle-like behavior. So they tend to call that collapsing the waveform. So basically the idea is just by observation, they change the essential behavior of light particles. And light particles are a quantum particle. So there's a lot of evidence that observation somehow changes the nature of quantum particles. So then if, the macro world is built on top of the quantum world, then can we change this consciousness, observation, or some kind of a thing like that, also able to change things in the macro world, is a big question. Now, a lot of the quantum physicists are like, oh, no, it's only in the quantum world. But, yeah, who knows? But anyway, so that's the basics of the double slit experiment in real simple terms. It reacts, yeah. So the double slit experiment is fairly well known among people who are interested in weird stuff anyway. '21st century from my recollection, but I'm not solid. Yeah, the more I think about it, the more that sounds Buck Rogers in the 21st century. And then it was like the 24th century. I think that it might have been the 21st century, and then it was for me, and then it was the 24th. It was never the 25th, though. There's a number of other things that numbers have been pushed back. What was it that Mystery Science Theater 2000 is now Mystery Science Theater 3000. It was always 2000 before. And when it turned to 3000, I just thought that they changed the name for the new season because it came back from break and it was 3000. I'm like, oh, they're calling it 3000 now. But no, it was always 3000. It was never 2000. So that's another one where the date jumped ahead. It's weird. Baja California is changing ridiculously. Yeah, that big weird peninsula. Yeah, it's getting that like. Well, I guess on your side it would be this hook, and it's just longer, and it's getting islands inside. Yeah, there's just it's crazy. All right, so the last ME. Oops, that's not helping. Okay, so we had like blue colored people, either from that weird genetic problem where they don't get enough oxygen in their blood. Which it's just weird though, because I mean, people die from not enough oxygen in their blood, and although they say they're turning blue, they don't turn blue. They turn sort of bluish on like a few fingers or something. So those people who turn blue from lack of oxygen, that trips me out because even dead people don't turn that blue. So how can you turn that blue from lack of oxygen and still be alive? So then they had the thing where if you take a bunch of colloidal silver, you could turn blue. Yeah, okay, that's slightly more logical. But now we have this thing where you can turn yellow. And they're saying it's like a liver problem. But again, you know, when they said people were jaundiced and they would turn yellow, they would turn a little bit yellow, sort of yellowish, and their eyes would be kind of yellowish, but they wouldn't be like screaming yellow, because if you got that jaundiced, you'd be like dead. But apparently in this timeline, there's a liver problem that can turn you like yellow, like a, you know, pretty darn yellow. And it's called alagille syndrome, a genetic disorder that can affect the liver, heart, and other parts of the body. May include a yellowish tinge in the skin and whites of the eyes, jaundice. But yeah, but I've never heard of jaundice people being that yellow. So this baby, apparently, I ran into this on Reddit, is that yellow, like yellow. He has this alagille syndrome, but he's like freaking yellow. That is not, I don't know. I'm just tripping out on that because everybody, I mean, they're just coming up with all the excuses for people to be weird colors. We've got yellow, we've got blue. Red's probably not as big a deal because you've got sunburn and rashes and stuff. But I'm like, so what do we have left? Like green and purple? Green. I wonder if there's anything that makes you turn green. Oh, there is. There is one that makes you turn green. Hypochromatic anemia was historically known as chlorosis or green sickness for the distinct tinge sometimes present in patients. Hypochromatic anemia. Oh, I'm going to have to look this up. Okay. How green did they get? Hypochromatic anemia images. Oh, they got pretty green. It looks a little yellow, but it's pretty green. All right, so it's still more yellow than green, but it is kind of green. All right, so you can turn green, you can turn yellow, and you can turn blue. No, that can't be real. That must be a statue. Yeah, that has to be a statue. Green sickness. All right, not very many images of it. All right. What about purple? Sickness makes you turn purple. Is there any color you can't turn purple? Purple skin is a common symptom of injury. Purple skin results from bleeding. All right, so that's just bruising. Cyanosis is when your skin turns blue or grayish. We've already had that one. I don't think we have purple yet. We've got purple feet. Raynaud's disease. I've covered this before. In my old timeline, Raynaud's disease just caused you to have a little tingling and numbness. But in this timeline, you're just, you're like, one finger will turn a weird color and another won't. Like usually white, though. Um, okay. So maybe purple feet from Renault's. So Renault. See, no, this never happened with Renault's before. Look at that. The color change over here now. That's okay. So purple feet and purple fingers. You never turned that purple before. Okay, so Renault's is going to cause purple skin. Purple. That's craziness. You know, because one time I went swimming and I did have some weird numbness and stuff. I totally looked up Renault's disease and learned all about it. Afraid I'd have it. Whatever was causing it, it just went away. But I totally looked up Renault's disease and none of this was here. Renault's phenomena. Renault's phenomenon can be defined as health condition in which blood vessels in the individual body get narrowed or are experiencing changes in levels of cold and stress. All right, so fingers become white due to lack of blood supply. The blue color appears due to absence of oxygen. Then the blood supply returns to normal and the skin gets red. So you can turn red, white, and blue from Renault's disease now. Oh, gosh. No. It wasn't even this extreme. Like 2 months ago, the next time I had looked up Renault's and talked about it, you could not turn red, white, and blue. So this must be the American disease. No, this is just wrong. Okay, so that's it. I think that's the end of the show. We will end it on a note of red, white, and blue. No way. Kids often get hepatitis when they're born. They were born yellow. See, they weren't yellow like that. They just were just a little tinge to the skin, and you saw it mostly in the eyes. You would see the eyes where it was white would turn yellow. They wouldn't be like yellow like a cartoon character. Not in my old timeline, anyway. When they said you turn yellow, they meant mostly it was just in the eyes. See, slightly yellow, just like, like that could be their real color if you didn't know them better. But then you look in the whites of the eyes were turning a little yellow, and that's what would tip you off that it was jaundice. All right, anyway, so I think that's about it. We've covered everything. Not yellow like a banana, exactly. I don't know. It seems like we're turning all the colors. All these weird head shapes. We've got people with giant hands. So, like, we're getting used to all the weirdness because we've got all these weird shapes of feet and hand sizes. Thirsty Boy, yeah, the banana upside down banana thing has been well covered. We get all these weird hand shapes. We've got all these like super skinny people, really big people, all different colors. We've got a lot of different weird hairs and head shapes now. And then we're getting like people with all different numbers of fingers, 6, 8, 2, 3, hands that look like pincher claws. So we're getting like, so many weird. We're getting used to looking at really weird body shapes with this Emmy, and so you got to wonder where that's taking us. You really do. Anyways, all right. I think that we're pretty much done. I got everything. I'm gonna take a quick gander over here. Doop 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 doop. Yep. So, yes, thank you. You guys came up with some good ones. Appreciate it as usual. I think it's time for me to go to bed sort of early. So, thank you, everybody, for coming. I very much appreciate it. Think good thoughts, everybody. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.